Hello everyone. Welcome to this new preview of my channel, Bernardo Pilatti Official, Jaron Ennis against Roiman Villa, one of the two great stellar fights of the weekend. In this battle, the interim title of the International Boxing Federation will be at stake, a title that Ennis won in his last fight on January 7th, a points victory over the Ukrainian Jaron Ennis. His rival, Venezuelan Roiman Villa, got the ticket for this fight after his victory over Rashidi Ellis. Villa also won on the judges' scorecards, but he did so by majority decision. This Saturday's fight in Atlantic City will be a clear clash of styles between two deadly knockouts, as the statistics so well state. Jaron Ennis is undefeated with 30 wins, 27 of them by knockout. For his part, Roiman Villa also has impressive numbers in his boxing record. There were a total of 26 fights won with just one defeat, 24 of those victories being achieved via knockout. Jaron Ennis comes to this fight, which we will see on Showtime in the US, as the great favorite of the bookmakers. To win $100 with Jaron Ennis, you have to bet $1,100, while for every $100 wagered by Roiman Villa, in the event of a victory for the Venezuelan, he will pay a total of $700. In addition to coming into this fight as the heavy favorite in the bookmakers and most boxing pundits, Jaron Ennis will be the one with the most physical advantages in the ring. The American surpasses Villa by 8 centimeters in height and by 4 centimeters in arm's reach. In other words, we are talking about a boxer like Jaron Ennis who, in addition to his recognized technical attributes, will add new physical advantages, and as if that were not enough, Ennis has in his artillery proven effectiveness in his power punching. And of course, given this scenario, one should no longer wonder how Ennis wins. The big question for this previous exercise will be, how can Roiman Villa break the forecasts and beat a rival like Ennis, called at the time to be the next great welterweight figure? I will talk about all this and much more in this preview of Jaron Ennis versus Roiman Villa. Next. Ennis versus Villa from all angles is a fascinating fight. They are two boxing worlds that come together from time to time to give us the best of their boxing cultures. Villa is a typical Latino warrior of those who leave their souls in the ring, and Ennis is the typical Afro-American warrior who knows how to unite technical ability, boxing talent, and the power of his fists by simple work and grace of nature. And the first thing that one asks oneself before a duel that promises so much explosiveness between two rivals of an aggressive nature is, what fight will we see? That is a huge question that we must divide into 5 keys, 5 fundamental factors. The first key, and in my opinion the most important, will be the mental strength of the two rivals. The second key of the previous Ennis against Villa will be to imagine who will impose his style in this fight. In the third factor, the key goes through the fight plans of the two rivals, which is to say the tactical fight. The fourth key factor of the previous one will be who beats who in the power struggle in the beating. Finally, we will factor in the intangible unavoidables, those that nobody thinks about and that are so difficult to predict. There are 5 parts to understand what can or cannot happen in Jaron Ennis versus Roiman Villa. In this area, there is a certainty and a doubt. Villa arrives motivated and very strengthened by everything he has had to overcome to get to this moment, including death threats to his entire family that made them fear for their lives and for their future in boxing, as he told us in a recent exclusive interview that granted us from his camp in California. In the midst of all that drama, his wins over Janelson Boca Chica and Rashidi Ellis were proof of his high mental overcoming power, something that could undoubtedly benefit him in this fight. In the case of the American Jaron Ennis, things smelled different and caused doubts. Until his last fight, Jaron Ennis was shown to be an unbeatable boxer and called to be the next face of world boxing. However, his victory against Jaron Ennis, where he had to go the entire distance of the fight and was complicated at times, left worrisome signs. In that fight, Ennis completely dominated the action. However, the defensive puzzle that the Ukrainian put in front of him, based on his good footwork and permanent mobility, frustrated him, something that generated boos, and as a consequence, Ennis rushed the actions, which brought anxiety, mistakes and defects appeared that no one had noticed before. In that fight, Ennis missed too many blows and lost defensive firmness that, against another opponent, could be lapidary. In other words, his power of concentration and mental discipline proved to be weak and vulnerable to frustration. If that happens against a knockout like Roiman Villa, it may be the end of the story. In the struggle of styles, we have in advance a true hieroglyph. Ennis is a boxer with proven tactical aggressiveness, an aggressiveness that he uses at the right time and knowing when and how. It is true that his good range of arms helps him a lot, but, above all, he benefits from his speed and precision to achieve it. This is how he dominated his recent fights against Clayton, against Delorme, against Lipinets, or against Chikadzean himself. Ennis has always managed to control the offensive rhythm, and with this he always commands the fights. The problem is that it is very difficult to imagine that this time Roiman Villa will allow it, and there is a huge doubt there. It is impossible to imagine the Venezuelan giving up the initiative, waiting and playing on the opponent's mistake to take advantage of it in his favor. Although, be careful, perhaps it would not be new if he did it to try to connect Ennis on the counterattack. But of course, that is not a certainty. Roiman Villa's nature is that of a bulldog, always looking to bite and hurt, that is, hit and knock out. The issue is that Villa has shorter arms than Ennis, and he will have to cut the gap and risk a lot before connecting little. Therefore, do not rule out that Ennis is the one who gives up the initiative, looking for precisely that, to connect his power shots at the moment that Villa tries to cut the distance and nullify Ennis's defense. Or it is also possible that Villa's corner surprises us all with a total turn in his style, taking the Venezuelan to the style of a tactical hunter, of pure patience, provoking Ennis to hurry up, make mistakes and put the balls there. In the previous key, I showed you my doubts about fighting styles and what could be caused by the fact that two aggressive men face each other, although with different nuances. Villa is more rustic than Jaron Ennis, who, as we marked him, has a better arsenal in his tactical aggressiveness. And I think this will be essential to establish the fight plans. Roiman Villa's corner learned a lot from Jaron Ennis's last fight against Karen Chikadzean. They already know that he gets frustrated when things don't go well for him. They know that taking away angles limits his hitting ability, and they also know that it will not be easy to cut him off the ring if Ennis decides to abuse his footwork. What I believe is that Roiman Villa avoided falling into that early and chose to go from less to more. In that case, they will force Ennis to take the initial risks. My doubt is who will be the first to break the fight plan of his rival, because I also think that Ennis will not risk early either, and that is where the key lies. Who will be the first to make adjustments in this fight? That is the question. Ennis and Villa have knocked out almost all of their opponents and have shown high resistance to power punching. The numbers of his statistics are eloquent and forceful. The two have a cumulative record of 56 wins, with 51 of those wins coming by way of knockout. There is also a coincidence between the two at the moment of greatest power in each fight. It is at the beginning of each fight that the two look more dangerous, as if they arrived with their engines already hot from the dressing room, ready to finish their work quickly and always put pressure from the first round. The secret of this key lies in the initial precision. Whoever connects more effectively will have a greater chance of hurting and knocking out his rival early. If there is no plan to avoid the initial exchange, it is obvious that this fight ends early, and that is why this key is so important. They are two knockouts. Whoever manages to hit first and has the greatest stamina will take the victory. In all fights, the intangible factor is the mother of the unexpected, and in that world, the first to reign are the three judges. They are always scary when fights are decided on points. Cases in fights that go the distance and end with absurd cards, without any sense of logic in the scores, have been repeated in the recent past. That can also happen in this fight. But there are also other intangible factors, like everything we don't know about the two rivals. The Venezuelan Roiman Villa has had to fight against adversity to get to this title opportunity. Nobody knows if the adversities were the real driving force behind him, and today, without the weight of the drama behind him, perhaps all his motivation is deflated. That would certainly be fatal. The same happens with Jaron Ennis. Could it be that he is indeed a gifted boxer, or did they just sell us a story thanks to choosing rivals in pure fighting mode? Like so many other current stories. His last fight against Chikadzian showed his flaws and ended up booed by his own fans. Maybe Jaron Ennis is a huge ball of smoke, or maybe not. We don't know, but that's also a huge intangible in this fight.